Hi, so I'm Bella Anais and I did J.J. Thomson's model. So my presentation is called The Discovery of Electrons. And a little information about the electrons before I get into it is that the electrons have a negative charge. They have a mass of close to 0 and it is located outside the nucleus. So J.J. Thomson was a British physicist who was born on December 18th, 1856 in the UK. He was the scientist who discovered the electrons, the first subatomic particle to be discovered. He discovered the electrons in his cathode ray experiment. He also came up with the model, the plum pudding model. And so that's a picture of him in black and white. So the plum pudding model. So Thomson created the plum pudding model on the right, and after he discovered the electrons, so he simply proposed that atoms are positive spheres. So the red sphere with negative charges in it. So if you see in the red circle, there's little tiny blue spheres, which represent the negative electrons. And so yeah, so basically the red circle is the soup, or like the pudding, and the tiny blue circles would represent like things in soup. So the cathode ray experiment was conducted by Thomson, and which led to the discovery of electrons. His experiment consisted of a sealed glass tube. High voltage was applied so that the beam was visible, and in the glass there was a magnetic field of positive and negative, and a scale towards the end of the tube which led him to discover the weight of the electrons, so a charge to mass ratio. So the electrons are negative charge with a mass of close to 0, smaller than an atom's mass. And when the beam was projected, Thomson saw how like the beam would deflect on the positive charge and away from the negative. This led him to the discovery that electrons had to be a negative charge, because the principle is that opposite charges attract each other. So if it was deflecting on the positive charge, it would have to be negative. So I have two images of what the cathode ray experiment could look like. On the top we see the high voltage, and we also see the magnetic field, the positive magnet and the negative magnet. And so towards the end you can kind of see these tiny little bumps which represent the scale, which led him to discover the weight of electrons. And you can see how the beam is kind of like going up towards like the positive magnet. You can see it more in the image below, where like the yellow line is more towards the positively charged metal plate, and it's curving up towards it. And that's his experiment led him to discover electrons. Some limitations of Thomson's model is that he failed to explain how the positive charge of the sphere and the negative charge of the electron stay connected. He didn't include the nucleus, and he didn't know the mass of the positive charge. And that is it for my presentation of J.J. Thomson's model and his discovery of electrons.